Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. It's Thursday, May the 23rd. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly, and David Williams. He's produced the program. We're looking forward to speak with you this morning on a topic of your choosing. So if you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, it's toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So I think I'm in the distinct minority of hockey fans that are actually tuned into the World Championships over in Czechia. But here we go with the playoff round begins today. Canada taking on Slovakia around noon. So good timing for me and you. And go Canada go at the Volleyball Nations League. Number 1 Poland on tap for Canada today. So number 12 in the world versus number 1 in the world. And congratulations and good luck upcoming World Championships of kickboxing. So I've heard some of these names in the past, and apparently there's a pretty stout kickboxing club out in out Paradise. It's the Warrior Elite Kickboxing Group. So about 60 students, and they got a big reputation. One of the driving forces behind it is a man named Fred Holloway. So he got a cancer diagnosis some decade or so ago and really turned his attention to these kickboxing gym. So they're producing some big champions out there too. So they've got 4 kickboxers that are going to go to the Budapest, Hungary 2024 World Association of Kickboxing Youth World Championships. That's a mouthful. So there are 4 going. Braden Evans, Leah Quinton, Isabel Quinton, and Caden Stock. Isabel and Caden are actually national champions as well. So congratulations, go get them, and good luck up along. So when they went to the most recent Canadian Championships, they came home with 4 gold, 5 silver, and 5 bronze medals, including one of the bronze for Mr. Holloway himself. So that's coming up later in August. But good news, man. 60 students will be producing national champions out in Paradise. All right, good stuff. All right, good luck, and go get them to the boys and girls of summer with baseball. So it's pretty chilly day today, but they're going to be hitting the Diamonds with a couple of tournaments to kick off the St. John's minor baseball season. So the first up is the Steve Phillips Classic. For people who have been around baseball, Steve was, of course, well known in the baseball circuit. That's for grades 3 and 4 students. 32 teams playing in that particular tourney. And then the second is for a junior high school tournament that features 13 teams. Both start today and run through Sunday. Good luck to the young baseballers this summer. All right, heard an interesting story today. Let's talk some housing issues. So apparently, inside the 275 incorporated municipalities in the province, only 6 have requirements for home inspections. So that they can be built up to the national code. And of course, that's not just for your own personal safety, but when you talk about renovations and upgrades down the road, having been built to code in the first place is a cost saver down the road. So only 6. Why would that be? That seems like a pretty strange state of affairs. So apparently it's left up to the municipalities themselves. On top of that, for most of us, the most valuable piece of equity, and that's how we think about housing these days, as opposed to somewhere to live, it's an investment. So for home inspectors in this province, there's no real formal training or accreditation required. You can just hang out a shingle and say you're a home inspector. And that comes with some trepidation for homeowners. I mean, we're all pretty cautious, I would suggest, when we go to purchase our home and you want an inspection done. You want to know what you're getting yourself into. But some of the people that maybe are getting hired to inspect homes, some of them might not even know what they're talking about. So another strange set of affairs. You'd think there'd be some pretty required training and updated training year over year as the codes change, what have you, but that's not the case. Pretty strange stuff. All right, stick with some housing issues. I meant to speak to this one yesterday. We do an underwhelming job on the housing front, period. And this story about people who are living in neighbourhoods alongside some landlords who own property that are used for housing people with complex needs, they say, whether it be mental health related issues and or addictions. And so this one news story, and I'll leave the lady's name out of it, and I don't know what neighbourhood this is in. And this is not about not in my backyard. It's about what kind of supports are in place. So apparently there's all kinds of subsidies come through three different entities that flow to these landlords. So I had them checked off here. I'd like to be sure I'm accurate. One of them comes from the Newfoundland Labrador Health Services, and that's only one of three. We're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, and well in addition to $1 million for some of these landlords. And here's the problem. So whether it be money from NL Health Services or the Newfoundland Labrador Housing Corporation, the fact of the matter is, we leave it up to the landlords to provide the oversight and monitoring. They talk about the concept of wraparound supports. So this one lady who lives in an attached house, so it's a duplex, she says the violence and the wall shaking, things thrown out of the window, and people coming and going, and drugs being sold, and every single day there's a visit from the RNC. Well, that's anecdotally. So what happens? So apparently there's one initial inspection conducted by Newfoundland Labrador Housing, but none thereafter. So we basically just give the money and hope for the best, cross our fingers, as opposed to leaving it up to the landlords who are raking in some pretty significant money on this front. We're just leaving it up to them. We're not following up. And of course, when things are, when the advice is, well, if you see something happen, simply call the police. Calling the police in and after the fact is probably not all that helpful when you're living in fear. And some of these people, including this lady commented on in the story, is living in exactly that, living in fear. And we've got a lot of these landlords and a lot of money going out the door to house some 397 people. And it's only even offered in the eastern zone of the province. So again, when we talk about the big stories of housing needs and need to build however many houses, there are people out there with what they call complex needs, and I don't know what the solution is, but simply throwing caution to the wind and hoping for the best is certainly no way to approach this type of complicated issue. Same thing with the Comfort Inn. So apparently now we have numbers from Housing Minister Fred Hutton about just how many people are there. Remember, the lease over the course of 3 years to the tune of almost $21 million, and it opened its doors in March to bring in residents. They did a lot of work to, renovate or to reconfigure the Comfort Inn. Had 140 guest rooms. Now it's about 100. Other rooms used for various other services and treatments and counselling and what have you. So all this time later, there's 11 people there. 11 people living in the Comfort Inn. And they say that there's very little in the way of support offered there. There's 10 staff on site. What those staff are doing, I have no idea. But, again, this was always going to be the potential problem. Now, Minister Hutton says, he wishes things were proceeding quicker. But the fact of the matter is, they're already happening now. People are living there. And if we don't have whatever supports, because if it just becomes something akin to emergency shelter, albeit with your own door and your own key to your own private room, then what are we achieving? So when they talk about it being a transition house, transition has to come with all the required supports, whether it be for your mental health related issues and or your addictions. And yes, maybe some supports like if you don't have your high school equivalency, we give it to you there. We put you in the program. We put you in the employment stabilization program. I've called it successful. People have taken me to task. But the fact of the matter is, over the course of 11 months last year, there was 170 people in this program, just the leg up to get back on your own 2 feet, get into the workforce for the first time, or return to the workforce with pittance regarding the amount of money that we're spending. Of the 170, 11 months later, 40 were no longer on social assistance. So all these types of things, with the mental health and the physical health and addictions treatment, and maybe just an opportunity to actually transition, as opposed to a revolving door like we see in the shelter world. So 11 people there. And yes, I'm sure the minister would like to see things happening quicker, but the question then becomes, why so slow? And what are the plans? What are some of the eligibility requirements? What are the services going to be? How do we measure success? What about the consumption of alcohol and drugs on site? I know there's visitors allowed, but only in the common areas, not in the private rooms, and fair enough. But, we focused in on the price tag, which is, of course, a pretty significant amount of money. But we really are no further along with that particular spend by the provincial government. Anyway, you want to take it on? Let's go. Sticking with housing. So we had a call one day this week from a lady living out in Port aux Basques, wondering aloud how her and her family are not receiving the compensation after the damage suffered during post-tropical storm Fiona, yet other homes close by in what they call the zone, which is a big question in and of itself, some homes that apparently received little to no damage. and the owners are being compensated to the tune of $200 per square foot. So if you live in a modest 1,250 square foot bungalow, for instance, and you were receiving this compensation, all of a sudden you're $250,000 richer. Kind of feels like a relocation to some, doesn't it? So we're actively trying to figure out exactly what the parameters or the criteria is, because it's kind of been happenstance kind of stuff. And then, of course, the focus has been keenly on Port aux Basques, and we've had callers in the past for communities, say, for instance, like Burnt Island, that were pummeled. Fiona didn't know what communities that storm was striking, and so consequently, all this time later, we still don't really know exactly who's going to be compensated and the criteria for. So whether it be inspections by engineers and otherwise, but this lady quite clearly described a pretty severely damaged home, and looking at homes through her own kitchen window, people are being compensated and the homes were damaged at all. So just being in a storm zone doesn't necessarily mean that the compensation is required. If you didn't suffer any damage or limited damage, then how are we paying out so much money to homes that I know you can't replace a home that's already been built that you bought for $45,000. $45,000 won't rebuild it, but still some pretty big questions. And it's not just Port aux Basques. You're absolutely right. And if you're one of those surrounding communities that was also hit, we can take your call this morning. Last one on the housing-related matter. So the banking regulator in the country, and that's the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions. They're talking about the pressures homeowners are facing. And they're quite obvious. So while the banks in this country are being investigated for money laundering, funding terrorists and organized crime, the concept where they can't seem to get some control over the harassment being offered via e-bank transfers, the banking regulator comes out to say, yeah, worried about the financial system and the high interest rates and mortgage renewals, and how many may indeed find their mortgage in arrears or default. Arrears, I think they measure by you haven't made a payment in 3 months. So it's a bit of Captain Obvious stuff. With the most updated inflation numbers, I know some people don't trust them, but the fact of the matter is those would be the numbers considered by the Bank of Canada. I can't really understand how the bank is willing to continue on with these high interest rates when they say out loud every time that the biggest pressures on inflation are energy and housing. And yet for how many Canadians, what's it going to mean to the financial system if we have a significant number of mortgage holders that find themselves in arrears and or default? The numbers aren't staggering at this moment in time, but there's a couple of million mortgages up for renewal in the next 18 months. So we'll all wait to see what Mr. Macklem and his team at the Bank of Canada have to say, but for the regulator to make the news by pointing out the painfully obvious that high interest rates, people are getting what they call like a shock to the system or a sticker shock when they go to renew, and some of their payments may indeed almost double. Boy, oh boy. Last one on housing, and this, I shouldn't say it like that. So a provincial delegation has arrived in France today to begin the trek home for the remains of a member of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. So the military aircraft is going to land in St. John's on the 25th. Then the casket will put in the hearse, and they're going to make some stops along the way of note regarding the Royal Newfoundland Regiment and its history. Then it's going to lie in state in Confederation Building from June 28th to the 30th. Then, of course, hopefully we'll be in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier by July the 1st, the 100th celebration, the 100th anniversary. People have already asked me this morning via email, just how many people are there and why are they there? And who's paying for them to be there? Now, it's a pretty solemn circumstance here, but if you, in addition to that, with the renovation at the War Memorial, some $6.5 million, the purchase of the adjacent lot and what that might entail, what they might have there, interpretation center or some sort of museum. But anyway, there you go. More than 12,000 members of the military, the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, served in the military or support services during the First World War. 1,700 lost their lives. Some 800 have no known grave, and one will be making its way back to the province. Anyway, let's keep going. All right, so MHA pay raise. Had a caller yesterday really displeased, but the potential to see the members of the House of Assembly receive a pay raise to the tune of $25,000. Okay. So this is a good one. So the members of the Compensation Review Committee made 32 recommendations a couple of months or so ago, and one, of course, includes the bump of pay of $25,000. Now, there's already more money being paid if indeed you have a cabinet position or work on committees or what have you. So yesterday, in a subcommittee to advance this forward to see it presented in the House of Assembly at large in the fall sometime, here we go. The House of Assembly Management Commission yesterday voted to recommend that the House of Assembly accept the report in its entirety, including the bump. 2 PCs and one NDP voted in favour. The story goes on to say the 3 Liberals voted against it. But more to the story. Speaker Derek Bennett, of course, was an elected Liberal member, cast a deciding ballot to break the 3-3 tie. So it will be presented on the floor of the House of Assembly. You know, it feels pretty cute to know that the 3 Liberals voted against it. Because, look, the fact of the matter is, in politics, when it comes to things like voting, counting the vote prior to know where you stand is important. And it's always part of the process. So I'm suggesting, and if someone's going to be mad, too bad, you got to feel like they knew who was going to vote which way. And so consequently, for the record, the Liberals voted against it, but the Liberal Speaker voted for it. So now it's going to be some political fodder to say, well, I didn't vote for it, right? The 2 Tories voted for it. The NDP voted for it. You know, I know the members haven't had a pay raise since 2009. And then to go on, and the Speaker says that the report was thorough and evidence-based. What? How can you have evidence that says someone deserves a $25,000 pay raise immediately on top of an already pretty generous salary? I don't begrudge politicians a reasonable rate of pay. But you look around at what people are thinking and feeling and saying and spending and borrowing, $25,000 just doesn't feel like the time is right. It comes across as pretty tone-deaf to me. So, in addition to the members of Parliament getting a bump in pay, and of course, there is other monies coming in the door for members of the House of Assembly and members of Parliament, and we've talked about some of the loopholes available, but yeah, pretty cute. It made its way through the subcommittee and will be tabled in the House of Assembly. It'd be all right. And I think the caller yesterday said, it must be nice to be able to set your own salary. Yeah, that's well said. And it'd be nice if I could set mine and Dave's too. But the members, and look, the fact that it's making it into the House, I'm going to opine that it's going to get passed. If you want to take it on, we can do it. A couple of quickies before we get to you. So amendments to the Limitations Act. You know, a lot of the story focused in on Jack Whalen, who spent some 730 days in solitary confinement in Whitburn. So the legislation was leaked. And all it's going to add in the form of amendments is that if you suffered physical abuse that led to bodily harm. How you measure bodily harm? Does it drew blood? Is that bodily harm? So the abuse and the mental anguish, and maybe people refer to as mental torture, suffered by Jack Whalen and others, will not be included for any compensation coming from the government, who it was their responsibility for his care. So an underwhelming amendment, to say the least. We've had some calls on that in the past, and we'll be happy to take yours on today. A couple of very quick ones. The story of the number of bodies piling up outside the Health Sciences Centre is not only sad, but it's bizarre. Now, Minister Osborne says it's a complex issue, and it's not just here, it's in other parts of the country as well. Okay, so if we know that there's monies from the province that is, $2,338, a CPP death benefit of $2,500, neither of which has increased in a number of years, is it not possible to simply strike some sort of arrangement with the funeral homes for whatever is cost efficient for a cremation and or a fundamental burial and just deal with it? You know, he says various departments are looking at it. Looking at it to do what? I mean, is there legislation required here? Can we not just make arrangements so that we can give people some sort of dignified end of life, cremation and or burial? You know, I know some families simply can't afford to pick up their loved one. And yes, there's going to be time afforded to the government to connect with next of kin to find out what the arrangements could or should be. But the fact we've apparently added another reefer out there, can we not simply just strike a deal with funeral homes to do what we need to do? Because that is unsightly, sad, undignified, and certainly not helpful when we talk about the pressures that people are feeling today. Imagine being one of the family members of someone who's lying in that reefer outside the Health Sciences Complex. Let's talk about that if you're so inclined. I wanted to get to a couple more, but just last one. So generally speaking, by-elections can be very humdrum, can be kind of boring, and get little to no attention. Not the case in Bayvert, Green Bay. So whether it be the comments coming from PC candidate Lynn Paddock, and yesterday we spoke with the Liberal candidate Owen Burt on the programme, and he admitted quite openly that he voted for the Conservative candidate Clifford Small in the most recent federal election. and apparently is a full-time card-carrying member of the federal Conservatives running for the Liberals. The Premier was asked if there's any worry that if Mr Burt wins, that he'll simply cross the floor to sit with the Tories. He says he's not worried about that at all. So, I mean, a couple of additional wrinkles, I suppose, in what is normally pretty boring by-election. And of course, Vance polling opened up on Monday out in Bayvert, Green Bay, but lots to talk about inside that particular race. We're on Twitter. We're at VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. Jenny's going to kick it off, talking about the federal dental plan. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's begin this morning on line number 1. Good morning, Jenny. You're on the air.
Oh, good morning, Patty. How are you doing this morning?
I'm grand, thanks. How about you?
I'm grand, too. I've got some happy news to share with you.
Okay.
I went and had my teeth cleaned a couple of days ago, and I had them done 6 months ago, and it cost me $189. And so I thought the proof is in the pudding now. And so I went and I presented my card. And when I came out after getting my teeth cleaned, I was pleasantly surprised. You know how much it cost me, Patty?
How much?
$13 and some odd cents.
For people who are eligible, it can be quite helpful, and there's a lot to it. It's still some concerns being voiced, but I'm glad it worked for you the way it did. So I think you said it cost the first time, or 6 months ago, $189 compared to $13 yesterday. So absolutely, it's working for folks like you.
It is, and you know, Patty, they didn't present the program very well because I guess they're still ironing out the glitches, you know, but the receptionist said when I was, showed my surprise, she said, and I was so happy. She said, yes, she said it's working really well. And I said, oh, gosh, that's wonderful. Now, there's some broader coverage coming up in the fall and then again, broader coverage again next year. But I made an appointment for 6 months from now because she said that they pay for 2 cleanings a year. So, it's preventative measure for sure. And like I say, like fillings and, it is preventative measure for your health care for sure. I was just so happy I had to share it with you.
I'm glad that it worked out for you, Jenny. So we're told as recently as yesterday is that there's now some 10,000 dental care providers signed up in the plan. There's some 2 million seniors have been signed up in the plan. And you're right, there's going to be an expansion of services coming up in the late summer and into the fall. Things like partial crowns and crowns and what have you. So not every dentist has signed up as of yet. They're talking about the administrative burden, and the eligibility is still a bit of a moving target. People are having a hard time understanding, the complication with their own personal insurance. But families with a net family income of $90,000 or less, you can be eligible. If you earn $70,000 or less inside the net family income, there'd be no copay. But the advice that comes directly from the Dental Association is to know exactly what's going to happen when you present, because you have to enroll through Sun Life, who's administering the program for the government. When you are going to the clinic and want to know what you're getting yourself into, just call their administrative staff and talk about what you need and what your ailments are and how much you might have to pay so that you don't get struck with a bill that you weren't anticipating after the work. So call the dental clinic themselves and see exactly what's going to happen when you present. And I'm glad it worked for you, Jenny, and I appreciate the update.
And the thing is, Patty, I did phone Sun Life, and they were very, very helpful. And what they suggested was if you're planning on getting anything, major, some of it could be covered. And they said just submit prior to having it done. And then that way, like you say, it'll be no surprises there. You'll know exactly what you're going to pay. And the other thing that the Sun Life representative said to me that as of July 8th, it doesn't matter if dentists have, signed on or not. Everyone you can go to anybody as of July 8th, any dentist, and they'll just pay them like they're doing for the ones that are signed on already.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not going to be just, some that signed up for it. It's going to be everyone. So they're going to get paid no matter what, and you just pay the whatever you need to pay, what they'll tell you,
Yeah, that's helpful information. You're right, Jenny. Those who aren't enrolled formally as dentists or hygienists or dentures, they'll all be able to offer that service covered by the dental plan coming up in July. You're 100% right.
Yes, so anyway, you know what, I thought I got to phone Patty and say some good news. So there you go, Patty. You have a great day. I listen to you faithfully every day, and I love your show.
I appreciate you tuning in, and thanks for the call this morning. Stay in touch, Jenny.
Yes, you too, and I will keep in touch. Thank you, and have a great day.
You too. Bye, Jenny.
Bye-bye.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I mean, the plan certainly can work. And, some of the wrinkles and the late consultation with the dental associations nationally and provincially has complicated matters. And they've kind of changed their tune about eligibility regarding your own personal insurance, and dentists don't have to sign up. And, of course, a lot of this came with a deadline put forward by the NDP to continue on with their supply and confidence agreement. They pretty much had a drop-dead date for the federal government to announce whether it be pharmacare and or dental care. And when you bring forward massive programs that are going to potentially help some 9 million Canadians, then of course, if you don't think it all the way through, it will indeed be wrinkles to be ironed out. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, Patty.
Hi there.
Hi, Patty.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great today, thank you. How about you?
You're doing a good job as usual.
I appreciate that.
Yep. Patty, a few Friday mornings ago, you had a friend or a buddy or something call you in from Clarenville, talking about the road in Deep Bight.
Yeah. That was Otto.
It's in deplorable condition.
That's right.
I think it's every time to get something done with that road. Because it's not fit to go over with a horse and cart. That's the truth.
And that's the same road you're complaining about?
Yeah, same one, yeah.
Okay.
I was down there I was over there a few weekends ago, weekends ago, and I drove down through Deep Bight in Adytown. And I want to be done from the Transcanada coming out from Clarenville to the Transcanada going towards Hillview and Northbrook. There's another place in Northbrook too, as you cross the bridge and goes in. There's another place want to be done.
Yeah, the province will tell us that this summer will be unprecedented spending on road work. But, of course, with the X number of thousands of kilometres of roads here, you're never going to have all of them up to what would be passable standards. The roads are deplorable in just about every nook and cranny. They're terrible in town.
There's nothing done with that road in years. It's not fit. I'm telling you, it's not fit. If you go over that way sometime, you go in on the Hazytown intersection way, and you go up to Hazytown Deep Bight, if it's not done, and see what you think of it.
I'm sure I'd think the same thing you do.
Yep. Guaranteed, buddy. I guarantee it wants to be done. And there's another place there, just across the Northbrook Bridge, that goes in a little road there, that wants to be done too.
Yeah, the unfortunate part here is there should never be any decision regarding road work done by a politician. There should be engineers give us a priority list. We follow it, regardless if it's the Premier's district or a member of the NDP or an independent member, because the politics of pavement it shouldn't be part of the conversation.
Yep, that's right. Right on, brother.
Appreciate the call this morning.
You too, buddy, and thank you very much, and thank you very much for accepting my call, and God bless.
You too,
Have
sir.
a nice week.
You too.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break pretty much on time. When we come back, we're going to talk about the need for a contractor registry. What would it be? What would the benefit be? Alexis Foster is the CEO of the Canadian Home Builders Association of Newfoundland and Labrador. Alexis is next. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go line number 3. Say good morning to the CEO of the Canadian Home Builders Association for the province. That's Alexis Foster. Alexis, you're on the air.
Well, good morning, Patty. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. How about you?
I'm pretty good.
So, just like my preamble today, housing dominates a lot of the conversation for a variety of reasons. So, for people scrambling to get renovations done or what have you, sometimes you really need to have a big job for a contractor to even be interested. And then, you might just fall prey to some of the jobbers, the fly-by-nighters, which comes with a lot of financial risk, whether it be for workplace compensation or what have you. So, tell us what a contractor registry would look like. And are there examples across the country we can draw from?
Yes, definitely. So there are lots of examples across the country. BC probably has the best known system. It was created in response to their leaky condo crisis because they had a lot of people left in a very bad situation because of substandard work. So what we're trying to get implemented here isn't something new. It's something that's been done across the country, and Atlantic Canada currently doesn't have anything like it. But really, when you're getting somebody to do your work, you want to make sure that they know what they're doing and that you're not going to end up in a bad situation because somebody's done substandard work or there's been an accident and there's maybe not the insurance that's required on your site.
And we hear the stories. People are scrambling, they need the roof done or what have you. They make a deposit, there's some work done, and then, of course, you can't find the contractor because they're not registered, they're not insured, and so you're left in a lurch. Hasn't some of this work already been done? You know, when there was that big rebate program, which was extremely beneficial to not only the contractors, but to people to try to renovate their own home, wasn't there some sort of registry associated with that?
So that actually went through us as well. So yes, everybody who was a contractor during that program had to sign up with CHBA. So when they signed up, they showed proof that they were up to date with Workplace NL. They had their insurance in place, their GST numbers, just very simple things. We had over 1,400 businesses sign up for that across the province. So it's been shown that it will work. And then it's just giving the consumer that extra level of protection, knowing, you know what, whoever does my work isn't going to necessarily run away with my money or not do it correctly. So that's something that we want people to be aware of and to start asking the government for, because we certainly need something to protect our consumers, especially in a housing crisis where we are right now. As you said, there's lots of builders and renovators who are very, very busy. So a lot of the time you're looking for who can do the work and who can do it quickly. And unfortunately, some of these people may not be qualified to do the work, or they might be, as you said, fly-by-nighters.
So you can be insured and registered, have your GST number and all that intact, but it might not mean that you're still a reputable contractor. So do we vet the companies further to look at, you know, past complaints and quality of work and inspection results or what have you, or is it simply just have your GST number registered and insured?
Well, right now we're just pushing for the beginning of a registry. So what the registry would include would be the GST number, some other parameters. In order for a member of ours to be a member, they actually have to have a warranty program as well. So that is something that we have actually developed a proposal, which we have sent to the provincial government, and they are reviewing currently, where we've said we want to see the registry start first and then add additional things like the requirement to have a warranty for new home construction or renovations, and then the requirement to do continuous training. Similar to real estate agents, you need to do training to maintain your license. This is similar to what they do in BC as well, because you want to make sure that you're up to code. How we built houses 15 years ago isn't how we build houses today.
Yeah, and just a quick note on the jobber, the folks who are not registered, not insured. If you hire one of them and they fall off the roof or they break their leg or whatever the case may be, you might be on the hook because they're not registered with workplace compensation. So you might be financially liable for hiring someone and they might get hurt on site. So I just wanted to pop that out there. You mentioned up to code. So interestingly enough, you know, in this world, home inspectors don't necessarily require any training anyway. You know, they don't have any formal accreditation. Someone could just say, I'm home inspector. So should that be not part and parcel of the move towards, you know, a contractor registry and this quick move to build these number of homes? And we know that the sellers market is really quite strong in this part of the province anyway. What about the home inspector concept?
Well, so we do actually only have about 6 municipalities in the province that actually do home inspections. So that's a very, very small number. So we're hopeful that through the creation of this registry, the requirement for training, that we would be getting a better product for everybody. But there would be a built-in around the building inspection process. We would have to figure out a way, no matter if it's through Service NL or something, where we could actually have some inspections done down the road. Right now, our biggest focus is let's start this registry so that we can get a bit of momentum, and then we can move to the point where we're requiring the training and working more with the building inspectors. And we have a committee at the association called our Technical Research Committee, and they are actually made up of just municipal inspectors across the Avalon and across the province who get together, and we make sure that the inspection requirements are the same across municipalities. So if you're building a house in St. John's, it's similar to if you're building a house in Mount Pearl, CBS, Paradise, wherever.
When we talk about consumer protection too, so if a house is built to a code and inspected by someone who understands the National Building Code, when you look down the line for renovations or upgrades to your home, there's also savings down the road there too, because the person you bring in who's maybe a member of this hopeful contractor registry may have to do a lot of work to bring the house up to code to do the renovations properly so that it can actually pass an inspection. So talk about the importance of being adherent to the building code, not only for initial construction but down the line.
Oh, yes, it's incredibly important. And in Newfoundland and Labrador, we don't provincially adopt the code. It's left to the municipalities to do that, which is very different from across the province as well. So it is up to municipalities to actually bring in the code. We've been fortunate to have some conversations with municipalities NL about the importance of it, but it just comes down to the resources sometimes. But that would be another step in this contractor licensing process. The first step is to get it started. Second is to require mandatory warranties, and the third would be to request the adoption of the National Building Code across the province.
Would this also be helpful when we talk about the timelines for, identifying a piece of property or a house that wants to be renovated or flipped or whatever the case may be, for getting approvals from municipalities? If we had something formal like this, could the municipalities possibly use this as a tool to say, okay, we've done business with this contractor, we know their work, we know the caliber and the quality of the work and the reputation, so consequently the permitting timelines could be expedited?
We would love to see that. We've actually had conversations with some municipalities like the City of St. John's about doing a pilot project like that. We do know we have lots of interest from our members because the timelines that we are waiting for permits sometimes do get extended, and we know people are trying their best at times, but at times it needs to move a little bit quicker. So we have been fortunate to have conversations with them about that, but we would love to see a pilot project where if you are registered in this registry, then, like you said, we know what type of work you do. We know after so long, maybe your permitting has moved quicker. That is a hope for the process. And overall, we think that contractor licensing would be better for the industry and for all consumers, because right now, if you have to wait for a permit, we're getting some people who aren't waiting for those permits, and then you're contributing to the underground economy, which can come back to bite you as well.
Yeah, because whether you're a developer and or a contractor, the carry costs are real. So every week is more money out the door before you actually put a hammer to a nail or whatever the case may be. Alexis, when they talk about the Canadian Mortgage Corporation, talk about 10,000 new building starts per year, 60,000 over the course of 6 years, when pretty much a banner year, correct me if I'm wrong, a bumper year in this province is around 12, 13, maybe 1,400 starts. Last year, I don't think we got to 1,000. So how should we consider that number from the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation? It kind of seems aspirational and a little bit nonsensical.
It is. To be completely frank, it is. We'd love to say, oh, yeah, we're going to hit those numbers. We cannot hit those numbers. We don't have the labor to hit those numbers. We have issues around land development. In different municipalities across the province, there are hookups and holdups on things there. So there are things that are standing in our way. We're hopeful now with some of the housing accelerator funding and some of the zoning changes proposed in different municipalities that it may help. But it's going to continue to need collaboration between all levels of government and the industry in order to remove these barriers to even begin to take a notch out of that number, because 10,000 homes is, I think, 2,500 was the best year we ever had. So we need to do a lot more work.
Last one on the skilled trades. When you ask the province about, hands-on exposure to whether it be a carpenter, a millwright, a plumber, electrician, whatever the case may be, Darren King of Trades and says it'd be nice to have that type of centre. And in certain provinces, they do have that. So for high school students and or post-secondary students, looking at the possibility of joining the skilled trades, it's one thing to be told about it by a presenter in the classroom, quite another to go in and put a hammer in your hand and or a pipe wrench or whatever the case may be. How important could that be? Because skilled trades, if everything comes to pass at the same time, whether it be the wind proposals or Beta Nord or more work at Bull Arm or house building, whatever, I just don't think we've really exposed people to those possibilities and the type of careers available and the kind of money you can make. You know, we do it in other factors like STEM and what have you. How important could that be?
Oh, it could be huge. It could have such a significant impact. We have seen in other provinces where they take high school students and they actually introduce them to the trades, and then when they come out, they can work towards their journeyman, or they already have jobs. We've been happy to have actually been working a little bit with Skills Canada, and they have a great summer program now where it will be targeting high school students grades 10, 11, and 12, where they can actually go and work in a trade and then they earn hours towards their Red Seal. So when they actually graduate, they have hours that they can work towards their journeyman or journey person. So it's just phenomenal to see something like that happening. It'd be great to see it happen on a bigger scale.
Yeah, because that's one of the catch-22s, right? For an apprentice to be assigned to a Red Seal skilled trades person, then of course it's, you know, whether or not you have the hours to be even brought onto the workforce. And so people are asking the question, okay, why would I even entertain this? Because I'm just chasing my tail. I don't have the hours, so consequently I can't get on the site.
Exactly.
Yeah, strange stuff. Alexis, I appreciate the time this morning. Thanks for the call.
And thank you.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Alexis Foster, CEO of the Canadian Home Builders Association of Newfoundland and Labrador. I mean, and not to knock down the need and or the dire circumstances that the world of housing finds itself in for both mortgage holders and renters, but we really do have to speak to terms of reality. So Alexis just said the best year ever in the province was building 2,500 homes, and you know, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation talk about 10,000. We got to temper the aspirations with a dose of reality so that we can actually measure if we're getting where we need to be. Because if we're using the benchmark of 10,000 per year for the next 6 years, then we can look down the road and just say, fail, 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 fail. Not good enough. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Fred, you're on the air. Hi, Fred.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Great, sir. How about you?
I'm doing grand now, thank God. I'd like to give a bouquet of roses to the ambulance driver and the paramedics and the plough drivers and everything. On March 9th, I had a massive heart attack, and the ambulance got stuck in Bay Roberts, and they had to get the plough them out and bring them down to my door. Then they cleared up down there, and then they had to shovel in to get me out and walk me out to the ambulance. Then we got up on Veteran Memorial, and we got snowbound again. And then they had to get the plough from Spaniards Bay up the ploughs out again. So when they got it out, the Department of Highway truck went along with the big plough and said follow him. So we followed him, and when we got to the Saddle Hill in Carbonear, he went off the road. So then the paramedics said check on the driver. So we checked on him, and then they come back and said quick, he's having a massive heart attack. And so after the phone ahead. So as soon as we went down over the hill to the Carbonear, the hospital, they put nitro under my tongue and saved my life. I tell you, I got to give them all the credit in the world. And the doctors at Health Science too. They done some job. I had 9 blockages and 4 stents put in.
Holy smokes. Significant.
I know. Hey, I was in the ambulance back on hitting all them snowdrifts. But I sure appreciate what they did for me, buddy. You're the best staff in the world, all of them.
And how's recovery going?
100% as of now. I'm maybe I'm overdoing it a little bit, but I'm on the go. I don't want to stop because I was a long time before they found out I was wrong, me boy. But thank God I'm doing good now.
Well, thank God they found it when they did. You know, there's lots of people walking around. I might be one of them walking around with significant blockages that might get me before they get them. And I'm glad it worked out for you, Fred. And I'm sure all the healthcare providers that you're throwing the bouquet to, they appreciate it because there's an awful lot of the time where they're not getting bouquets, they're getting bricks.
I know that's look. You can't get a better staff than the in Carbonear and the Health Science. They look the whole staff when they done. They put the needle into the wire into my wrist, and that's how they done it all. And everybody acted as one person because everything he done, he was telling them, and one was relaying it to the other. Why I'm telling you, you'd had to be there to see it and believe it.
That's good news, Fred, and I'm glad you're doing well.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good day, Paddy.
You too, sir. All the best.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, good stuff there. All right, let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to the PC member for Terra Nova. That's Lloyd Parrott. Good morning, Lloyd. You're on the air.
Morning, Paddy. How are you doing today?
Grand today. How about you?
Always well, always well.
Good.
Just wanted to call in, I guess, and have a small discussion about the transportation infrastructure flyer that went off the road in my district February the 14th. So it happened on a stormy day. Obviously, it was an unfortunate accident, but went off the road and it damaged a grave site there. And ultimately, it looks as if there's going to have to be a body exhumed due to the fuels and the contaminants that went into the soil and everything. And it kind of went off the rails, in my opinion. And I think the family felt the same way, and as did the Anglican Church down there. Government turned the whole situation over to an insurance company, and there was no coordination done with the family on an individual basis. And I guess in the end, they were left dealing with several different departments instead of one person coordinating. And the individual that has to be exhumed, sadly, hadn't been passed away for a very long time, and it's created a tremendous amount of pressure on the widow. So it's unfortunate that we handle things that way as a government, for sure.
So, I mean, these are some of these circumstances, there's not really a playbook for how to deal with this, especially when we're talking about sacred grounds like a cemetery. So how it unfolded, you're displeased with. How should it have been approached?
Yeah, I think that government should have coordinated it all. Obviously, I understand the fact that insurance has to be involved, but the coroner's office has to be involved, the RCMP has to be involved. And instead of each individual outlet, reaching out and time and time again, sometimes via mail is what I was told, not necessarily through a phone call or a visit. It caused stress and unknowing, and to be quite frank, each department didn't know what the other was doing. So I believe that government, someone inside of transportation infrastructure, should have spearheaded it all and made sure that it was coordinated. It's a very sensitive issue. It's sensitive enough from an environmental standpoint, but when you have to exhume on a body and you're going on sacred ground, obviously somebody should be taking the bull by the horn, so to speak.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not going to argue that point, because it does come with a different set of circumstances, and not to disparage whether or not it had to happen on a farm or someone's private backyard, but a cemetery just gives it a different sense or a different feeling, I would say. I don't know if that's the right word, but I think you know what I mean.
Well, I would argue it changes the sense of urgency, I guess is how I would say it. And like I said, from an environmental standpoint, it was urgent anyhow. There's groundwater around, there's different things that could be affected by the fuel that was in the ground. But the reality of it is that there's families, they're in stress and distress over all of this for certain, and they should have been a key part of the equation, no question.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to say the very least. Before we let you go this morning, Lloyd, I know your party's been asking questions about the numbers of bodies behind the health sciences, in those reefers. The next of kin or the family aren't picking them up, and the minister suggests it's a complicated issue and that it's happening across the country. He did mention that there's a variety of different government departments looking at it. Do you happen to know what he means by that? Because, like I suggested off the top, and I try not to be in the world of oversimplification, but is there not a possibility for government to just strike some sort of working relationship with the funeral homes so that we can, for whatever cost-effective measures can be there for burials or cremations versus government variety of different departments looking at it? Do you know what he means by that?
Yeah, I don't. And Paddy, the reality of it is that, you're right. These bodies deserve respect. And as do the families who can't afford to bury their loved ones, if that's the instance. And I've spoken to some funeral home directors across the province, and it's not just a situation of the deceased bodies that are at the health sciences. I mean, there's funeral homes with multiple urns because people don't have the ability to pay for it and pick it up. I think government has to change their approach. I mean, obviously, the line from the minister is they pay for funerals up to the maximum set amount, and that's based on income. I think they need to start looking at thresholds, not just for situations like this, but thresholds in other areas, because what happens is programs change, but thresholds don't. And, people just can't avail of the services that are out there. But if someone were to pass away, they deserve, all the dignity that can be given to them. And there are situations that are unfortunate where families can't afford to do that, or in case where a body is not identified, obviously there has to be stronger legislation that allows us to move forward and treat someone with dignity. And, having said that, I'm actually calling you today from France. I'm over here with the delegation that's going to recover the body of the unknown soldier and repatriate it to Canada. And it's probably one of the greatest honors I've ever had in my life. And, it's a big honor as an MHA, and certainly as Deputy House Leader and opposition to be invited by the sitting government is a big honor. But as a former veteran, I can tell you it's a very big deal. We just had our first ceremony at Monty-le-Preux one of the first caribou ceremony, and we've got 4 more to do, and the repatriation ceremony is on Saturday. And very, very touching, very, very big honor.
I can only imagine, and hopefully, you enjoy it as the solemn trip that it's intended to be. And, like tomorrow there's going to be a federal member wants to call about the exact same topic, which makes me feel like I should not broach any other topics of the day, politics or otherwise, because you don't want to trip up these solemn types of conversations and the importance of this repatriation. So I just wanted to offer that as a caveat. But I do want to ask you one more question, because I think it's incumbent on me to do so. So I'm not going to ask about what it's going to cost to send the provincial delegation, but yesterday in the subcommittee, looking at the recommendation of the pay bump of $25,000, some pretty cute vote counting goes on there, I'm pretty sure. 2 Tories voted in favour, 1 NDP voted in favour for it, the Liberals voted against it, then the Speaker broke the tie. I'm pretty sure everyone knew how everyone's going to vote. When it makes its way to the floor of the House of Assembly, and I know politicians haven't had a raise since 2009, and that's a mistake, just like the continued freeze of tuition at Memorial University, it came with sticker shock when it went away. Are you going to vote in favour of taking that raise?
Yeah, so Paddy, here's what I'll say. The first thing is that we should not be voting on the raise. And what I mean by that is there should be legislation in place that makes these things happen. Nobody should vote on their own raise. And the MCRC, the committee, they didn't vote for the raise. They voted for the report to come to the House of Assembly and be debated on the floor. And if you want to know if I think that MHAs in this province deserve a pay raise, I will say yes, and I have no problem saying that. And I'll say this based on, if you go back to 2007, you look at the adjustments in pension, you look at actually there's less pay now than there was back then, and you look at the expansion of what the role is, you look at social media, you look at the enlargement of the districts when they decreased the number of MHAs. There's a whole lot of reasons for pay to go up. I will take part in that debate, and I'll understand fully what it is, but I support that coming to the House. It should come to the House. There was a lot of money spent on the committee to do that investigation and come up with a suggestion. But I'll decide on how I'm going to vote when it comes there. But I do believe that MHAs deserve a pay raise for the work they do. If you can go back through history and you can see the pensions have been reduced substantially, and the life cycle of an MHA is very short. The reality of it is I don't think anyone in that House joins the House Assembly because of the pay. But the other side we need to look at is as times change and responsibilities go up, the ability for us to recruit and find good candidates to run the House Assembly will come down to at some point what the pay is. And, if we don't make change now, it's going to have to happen sooner or later.
I think it's the amount that concerns people, not the fact that there shouldn't be a raise after all these years have passed. Yeah, so I guess that's the point.
So I think the study says, Paddy, if you went through CPI and you looked at what it would be if CPI had been in place since last pay raise came in, I believe it shows that just through cost of living adjustments, that the pay raise would have been $36,000 over that period of time. So it's less than that amount right now. And if it had been paid out over that amount of time, then you could, obviously, if you add up the monies that would have been paid over the last 14 years, not really 14, 17 years, it would have been astronomically higher. So, I think I understand why the public would be questioning and upset about it. Absolutely, 100%. Certainly when you look at our seniors and how they're not indexed and different things.
Exactly.
But we got to change how we do business here. There's no question.
Yeah, and not to be crass, but you say the lifespan of a politician is short, but it's also quite short to be successful in 2 different elections, serve 6 years and get the pension. So, it's not about just whether or not people should deserve a raise. It's just that one time. It's just a big number. And I think the mistake is not having an increase of pay since 2009, because I get your point. Had there been CPI index pay.
Mistake, there's no question.
I appreciate the time, Lloyd.
100% right.
Enjoy the rest of your trip. Be safe.
Just one more point, Patty, quickly. I want to go back to the unknown soldier, and it was funny. We were in a conversation last night, and one of the people we ran into from here in France said they were overwhelmed by the veterans and the VIPs that were in the room, and my response was, well, there's only really one VIP in this whole trip, and that individual will return to Newfoundland on Saturday. So, biggest honor of my life, and I'm deeply a whole lot of gratitude for getting the opportunity to take part in this process.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, Lloyd.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It's Lloyd Parrott. He's the PCA member for Terra Nova. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, plenty of time for you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Jennifer, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Jennifer calling from the Royal Canadian Legion on Blackmarsh Road.
Welcome back.
I just want to let everybody know that we have our flipper and roast beef dinner on June 10th. Takeouts between 4 and 5:30. Eat-in is at 6 p.m. and our tickets are $25.
So do you have another option too? 'Cause sometimes with the flipper dinner, there's a roast beef behind it.
Yes, we do the roast beef also. Yeah. So if they don't want to, if the other person don't want it, they can have the roast. And it's a lovely meal. We usually get a good function, and tickets are selling pretty fast. I just wanted to get it out there for the last few people who didn't get theirs yet.
Yeah, good. We're always glad to and happy to promote the flipper dinners at the Legions in particular. So generally speaking, I think you probably sell out more often than not, don't you?
Oh yeah, every time. Yeah, we sell out fairly fast too. It goes faster than most meals we have. So, and like I said, we get a huge response for takeout and eat-in. So, it's lovely, I have to say. And also, I wanted to put out there too that we started our drive-in bingo this past week. So tonight, drive-in bingo or sit-in bingo. Doors open at 6 and game starts at 7:30.
How many games?
I'm not. I think I'm not even quite sure now. How many games bingo is it, Anne? 14. 14 games bingo.
Oh, 14's a lot for the drive-ins. Yeah. Ask Anne, what's the jackpot?
The jackpot this week is, I'll tell you now, it is. Oh, no, that's escalating. We got our escalating is $1,360.
Okay.
And jackpot is $1,500.
Sounds great. So give us the number one more time if people want to order up their flipper or roast beef dinner.
Yeah. It's 709-579-8281, or you can pop in every day. We're open from 12 to 12 in the office from Monday to Fridays, 8:30 to 12 o'clock that night.
Good luck with it, Jennifer. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks so much, Patty.
Pleasure. Take care. Good luck.
Bye.
Here we go. There's a number if you want to get yourself in on the flipper dinner action. Dave, did you say I'm going to line number 1 here? Okay, let's do that. Let's go to line number 1. Virginia, you're on the air.
Hello, Patty. Yes, I haven't called in here before, probably years ago when Bill Rowe was on here, so I am a little bit nervous. But I'm calling about the state of the roads in the CBC area, Holy Road, Harbour, Maine. I mean, they haven't been upgraded in the past, I don't know how long, few years. And I mean, it's so bad that it's not safe to be driving your car. Like, I think I might have hit a bump the other day, and my car hasn't been functioning right since it happened. So I called our MHA's office, and she's Helen Conway, and she's PC, and her assistant returned my call, and she's been constantly presenting this in the House of Assembly whenever she gets a chance, but nothing is being done. And I guess I was naive to think that just because we're not on the government side, that we would still get repairs done and essential work done when it was necessary. So, it's almost ludicrous to think that that's why, or probably part of the reason, the roads are not being repaired as they should be.
Well, like I said earlier, and like I've said many times, it should not matter who the member is and what party they belong to. I mean, we're told constantly that in the world of, early tenders, which is helpful, and the 5-year plan, which is helpful, there's always going to be some grey areas for things like washouts and stuff where we have to do emergency and immediate work. But we just got to try to hope that politicians will do the right thing. Now, that's asking a lot, but to stay out of it. If the road needs to be done, let's do the road. The end.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. And not enough people are putting it out there. And it's, some people are not comfortable calling in Open Line, but I really think now and encourage people, everybody, to phone in, when they can, or if they can, to complain and protest about this. I worked all my life over 40 years, and pay taxes, and I think as well as other retirees and everybody, deserve to have essentials done in our province.
Of course, no argument coming from me. So, I'll say it one more time. Politics of pavement is absolutely 100% ridiculous, and it should never be the case. We're going to hear this all the time. And, maybe some of the opposition members will use that as a political tool as well and say, well, I'd like to get it done, but of course I'm not in the government, and so consequently it's the Liberals' fault. But,
exactly.
And it can go the other way too.
And it's been like I'd say for the past 10 years, you can see a reduction in services because with the highways, because there's no ditching being done anymore, no brush cutting. I mean, it's unsafe really to be on the roads.
Yeah, and there's someone coming up that's in the queue talking about how many young moose are in and around town. I saw one just the other day in town on Torbay Road, a very young moose, which of course presents a danger. And the brush cutting, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes.
Because it's one thing to talk about traffic calming measures and or moose fences. One of the easy things government can do to help protect us as the motoring public is cut the brush back. I mean, give me a fighting chance to see the moose coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's dangerous, especially like in small communities where kids are riding bikes and, just people just walking on the side of the road. So all these things should be taken in consideration. But please do something with the roads. I mean, like I say, they're not fit to drive on.
No, for the most part, there's lots of places where the roads are not fit to drive on. We can talk about it beating up my tyres, my rims and my suspension, but it's a safety issue as much as it is a nuisance to have to get your vehicle repaired. No doubt about it.
Yes. Okay, thank you for your time. And like I said, I encourage all residents to let their voices be heard about this.
100%. I'm glad you made time for the show this morning, Virginia.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, there you go. All right, let's try to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about an opportunity to see some satire or some comedy associated with what is kind of a pretty dark political climate these days. We're going to talk with Azal Dazan. She's the playwright and director of Tamasha, Tamasha, coming up at the LSP Hall. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Now let's talk about an upcoming co-production between the Resource Centre for the Arts and Culture Centre, and This Might Be Satire Productions. It's called Tamasha, Tamasha. Join us on line number 4 is the playwright, director and principal adapter. That's Azal Dosange. Good morning, Azal. You're on the air.
Hello, Patty. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine this morning.
First time we're talking.
Am I pronouncing your name even close? Properly?
It is pretty close. It rhymes with the word puzzle.
Puzzle it is. Welcome back to the show. So August sent along a brief summary of what's going to be featured in this performance. But, it's an interesting take because if you're looking at trying to poke fun and add some comedy to what can be a pretty dark political climate, that's a pretty tricky task. But I guess it's more required now than ever because it is a little bit dark.
It absolutely is, and I've said this before to so many people that this project is essentially about creating a space where people can come in and find entertainment, and then when they're taking their ride back home, then they can start thinking about what they saw on stage. So it is political, definitely, but more than political, it is entertaining. It's funny. It doesn't put up walls in front of people to make them understand what's happening in our political climate. It really makes people open up to take in the political concepts. So it's very easy to understand, and it is a translation. But at the end of the day, it is an entertaining piece.
Help us understand the protagonist that is Tamasha. What's the storyline?
Yes, so Tamasha is a story of a fool and a master. So essentially it's the hero's journey, but instead of a hero's journey, we see a fool's journey who leave their small town, small village to go and discover the big world and everything that the world has to offer. And once they leave, they realize the world is not what it was made up to be. And the comedy comes through that.
So I can't remember, and I don't have the email in front of me, but I think it made reference to the fact that Tamasha on was supposed to be the hero's journey turns into a fool's journey. Was it in an effort to become a jester for the king? Is that what I remember?
Yes, that is correct, yes.
And of course, when you step outside your own little bubble, whether it be a small village and or even a city like St. John's, the world is big, and the world can be, depending on how you view it, what lens you use, it can be dark. So is there any specific political focus here? Because for some people, when we're looking for comedy, we don't necessarily need or want a specific political bent. So what can you say on that front?
Yes, absolutely. It is a package of everything. We touch upon housing crisis, we touch upon education crisis, the health crisis. So it touches upon all those subjects, but it does through the fool's journey. So the center of the story is the fool, and everything is happening around the fool.
And so this is not just, does it come from a collection of short plays to be amalgamated into one performance? Is that the way it works?
Yes, so it's 5 to 6 short political plays originally written in Punjabi by late Kushwaran Singh, and I took them, I translated them, then I put in some original things in it and turned it into a one single story. So that was definitely a challenge because they all come from different time and space. So to make them, relevant for today and to make them relevant for the space we are in today was certainly a challenge. But we have been developing this for like 4 and 5 years. So it really is a culmination of all the developments we've had through the years. And we are really, really proud. And it's a romp. It's a really fun time when you come in and watch the show. It's 90-minute to 100-minute play. And it really is laughter throughout, and then at the end it turns into something that makes you go, oh, I have some things I need to think about.
So if it was translated from Punjabi, which I would imagine had a focus on Indian politics, which is also quite fascinating, was it translated into an English production based on Canadian politics?
There are a few things that we touch upon in terms of Canadian politics, but my hope was to turn it into something that not just citizens of Canada can understand, but citizens across North America or even other parts of the world will be able to understand. So it is very current, it is very topical, and at the same time it's also very relevant to the geography of where we are right now.
So talk about the cast for a second. If it's a collection of different short plays, obviously that would incorporate an awful lot of different characters, given the fact there was a collection of shorts. So is this a sizable cast?
It is. We have 6 people, but they are playing multitude of characters.
No doubt.
Almost 40. There are almost 40 characters that they're playing throughout the play. So and Tamasha also translates to chaos or a spectacle. So there are a myriad of characters coming in and out of the show, and we have 6 of the funniest people in town taking part in this, and they have given their all. And so many other people throughout the years have also, funny people have come in and helped develop this piece because it was a big task to make it happen.
So it's come to the main stage on June 5th, runs to the 9th, and of course the best theatre experience is up close and personal in the theatre yourself, but there's other options for people.
Absolutely. The show opens on 5th June and it runs until 9th June. And because the show, at the end of the day, it's an entertainment piece and a lot of resources have gone in to make the show happen. But because it is a political piece, we really wanted to make the show accessible. So 4 out of the 6 shows start at pick your own price and they start at $0. So we really want people to just come and see the show. I often say we are not selling the show, we are giving the show. And we are only asking for like 90 minutes of your time to come and see the show. So we open on 5th June and we close on 9th June. And there's also a performance on 8th June that will be live streamed. And there's also live audio description performance happening on 8th June, 2 p.m.
I appreciate the time. Break a leg, Azal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patty.
You're welcome. Take good care.
All right.
Bye-bye. Azal Desange, the playwright, director, and the principal adapter for Tamasha. Oh, Tamasha. Let's keep going. And, of course, if you want tickets, you can just call the LSPU Hall itself at 753-4531. Let's keep rolling. Line number 1. Otto, you're on the air.
Yes. I wanted to talk to you for quite a while because all my personal belongings was all stolen because I was looking for justice and righteousness. I was living in a terrible situation with a landlord, and he was teetotally ignoring me completely until I had to go to some caseworkers at Stellaberry and at Gathering and the Salvation Army as well on 18 Springdale Street. The water was spilling in everywhere. It came down on the electrical and set off the fire detectors, and it was a very serious problem. And anyhow, I contacted the landlord several times, and nothing was being done. And there was quite a few things was out of place. But anyhow, when Stellaberry helped me out, and we demanded to get an inspection done on the place. The man is a council worker who I was renting off, and he must have known the inspectors. So anyhow, they came in, and when they demanded to fix the roof, and they checked on, they had to come inside and cut holes in the ceilings, put pieces up to make it safe to stand on, to tack on the shingles. And then immediately they wanted an inspection done so it would pass, and I could be qualified to be subsidised by Newfoundland and Labrador Housing. And anyhow, when I passed him that slip, right away he passed me a slip. He cranked the rent from 800 to 900 a month and pay your own heat and light, and threatened to change locks on the door because it cost him money to fix all the misery that I was living in. Now I'm 12 months living in the chaos and total misery. On account of him, what he did, Stillaberry told me he was not allowed to change them locks, but he did change locks and stole everything belonged to me. My table and chairs, my box spring mattress and frame, everything I had, my cookware, my food, my brand new leather coats and gifts that family people gave me for Christmas and for birthdays and different things, gifts that was never worn. And everything was completely stolen. And so I went to constabulary. And I wrote off 3 pages of items that was all taken on me. I worked hard for all this stuff and it was gathered up over the... I need some advice of what to do about theft. How do I get my stuff? I phoned and asked him, you got my belongings. I have dentures was in there. I have prescription glasses in there. I had to purchase another phone. Every personal item that a human being lives, I couldn't believe a landlord could be so miserable to do the like of this. And another lady I was talking to, I rented in another house belonging to him on Alexander Street, and he did likewise to her. So where do you go from there? The policeman who was assigned to hung up the phone. He said, I already talked to him. Whatever kind of story he gave him, I don't know him, because all the receipts that I got, the lady down in my file down at New Hope down in 18 Springdale got all my receipts. A photocopy of them all. He took my receipts was inside as well, but he don't have all them because I got a photocopy with his hand signature on it. So were the RNC willing to do anything about it? What exactly did they say? Well, I went up to a caseworker at the gathering, and we contacted legal aid lawyers, and they said you got to have him charged. You got to go back to the constabulary and have him charged. This is when they assigned this particular policeman, and that's the guy who turned around and told me and hung up the phone in 2 minutes on me. He never sat down and investigated or inquired. I want to have him charged for theft. This is my personal belongings. And I don't know why that wouldn't be as simple as that. I needs a lawsuit. I needs to get him before the judge and explain his case, why he stole all my stuff. So I've got a suggestion for you. I don't want to put this person on the spot by name live on the air, but what I'm going to do is, Otto, I'm going to put you on hold. David's going to give you a name and a number to contact someone who can be an advocate on your behalf. So, Dave, can we add to the name that we've been talking about? Can we also add Plean? See if we can give him that number as well. So I'm going to put you on hold, Otto. We're going to give you 2 references that we think can be able to help. Okay, yeah. I'll have to get a pen and get ready to write down. And okay, no problem. See about what's what with this, because this is a ridiculous act. This is. So some justice got to be about this, right? Yeah. I don't think a person who's so miserable as that should be allowed to be in practice with renting places to people doing like that. I don't dispute it, and I don't know what kind of person would be willing and wanting to do that. And I think you mentioned that you're not the only person they've done that to, which means that we've got a person out there who is behaving like a criminal. Like there's no justification. I was talking to another man yesterday. He had exactly the same thing done to him as well. Yeah. Okay, you're going to give me a number, are you? Yeah, I'm going to put you on hold. You're going to speak with David, the fellow who you spoke with already, to get in the queue. So he's going to give you a couple of numbers. And let me know how it goes, will you, Otto? I will, sir. Yeah, thank you very much. You're welcome. There you go. I'll put Otto on hold, and David's going to give me... I normally give out all kinds of numbers live on the air, but there's one specific person that we're also going to put him on to. And in an effort not to put him on the spot... live on the air, as if, he's going to be able to do something. We're just going to exchange that information with Otto, as David is doing right now. Let's go ahead and take a break. Don't go away.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 5. Barry, you're on the air.
Patty, this week, May 18th to the 24th, is Safe Boating Awareness Week. So we'd just like to pass along some safety messages. Number one, always most important is always wear your life jacket. And life jackets are available in different forms, functions, colors, sizes, etc. Number two, you always don't drink and drive. Boat sober. Take a boating course if you don't already have one, and that is a prerequisite now to being able to operate a watercraft. Be prepared for you and your vessel. Make sure your vessel is working properly, the engine, you have enough safety, you have the necessary safety equipment, and yourself be prepared to, while you're out driving, watch out for hazards like piece of wood or driftwood in the water. And be cold water safe. Know what to do when you go into the water. And that, of course, includes, first and foremost, of wearing your life jacket. So just like to say, have a safe boating season this year. And please always wear your life jacket. We just came out of the big weekend, Patty, May 24th weekend. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there was a drowning fatality this weekend.
I didn't see one, and I mean, I spoke about it leading into the weekend, whether it be highway safety or boating safety. Some people think it's perfectly fine to get in the boat and get on the beer, and it's just not. I mean, to complicate things, and I mean, this sounds absurdly obvious, but boats don't stop very quickly. If you've got the engine opened up and you try to avoid whether it be another boat or a swimmer or a rock or whatever the case may be, boats just don't stop. So you have to be really mindful. And in addition to that, you talked about boat safety training. Look, there are people out there who've got the money to have really big, fast boats that have no earthly idea of what they're doing. None. We were on the water one day specifically last year, and I kind of know the guy too. I'm not going to mention him, obviously, but he has a brand new boat with a pair of box 125 Evinrudes on it and doesn't know what he's doing. And he's going to get himself or someone else killed. And I'm going to say that, and I mentioned it to him before. I said, look, man, the way you handle that boat is just absolutely nuts. And I mean, things like the children would be playing on the edge of the wharf, and he'd come in at a pretty steep angle and try to swing the boat as fast as he possibly could to see if he could splash the kids. Man, one false move, and you're in the wharf. One false move, you're in the woods. So when I saw him at it, I just, it's not my place to be telling people what to do, but I mentioned to him, I said, man, one false move, and you find yourself in a dire circumstance. So I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people are out there in big boats that really don't know how to handle them. And when you mentioned falling in cold water, again, it's easier said than done. And, a life jacket is not a seat cushion. It's supposed to be worn, even though Transport Canada doesn't make you wear it. The hardest thing to do when you fall in the cold water is control your breathing. But if you can't get control of your breathing, it's going to be much more difficult to get yourself out of that cold water. So I know, again, easier said than done. Everyone can picture it. You jump in the pond early in the summer and it's cold. What's the first thing? You lose your breath. And so just trying to get something, to hold your breath, whether that be holding on to something like the boat or your life jacket or whatever the case may be. Because if you can't hold on to something, you probably can't get control of your breath either.
Yes, that's true, Patty. That's very true. And the most important thing is that when you're wearing a life jacket, the amount of time that you go under the water after falling in is very negligible, which decreases the amount of water you may suck into your lungs.
Yep.
Patty, also talked just briefly about the number of moose that's going around these days. And the moose that are wandering around the communities and around roadsides are yearling moose, which are moose that were born last year. This year, now the cow or the mother will drive the yearling moose away, get ready to have a new calf for this year. And those yearling moose then are very stupid. They don't have any experience, and when they get up and around roads or communities, they kind of lose their mind, and it's just go zigzagging all over the place, which makes for some very unpredictable behavior, especially if you're driving a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, they're skittish to begin with, especially when they're out of their elements and trying to navigate pavement or what have you. You can see just by their own actions how skittish they are. Yep, no doubt.
Indeed. So I'd say a final safe message about the boat safety now, Patty. Just like to wish everybody a safe and successful boating season. Please always wear your life jacket and make every trip a safe return trip.
Appreciate the time. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Patty. As always, it's been a pleasure.
Mine, sir. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, there we go. safe boating, absolutely. And I just mentioned moose. I just got a note. There's a listener who sent along this. So, dead moose sighting north of the Piper's Hole River, right there on the side of the road. So, be aware. Let's keep rolling. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Peter. You're on the air. Hi, Peter. Peter Leonard, line number 2.
Yes. Hello. How you doing?
Hi. You're on the air.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Paddy. I just like to put a couple of points across there for, like for the FFAW, the upcoming election there now, and the nomination ceased tomorrow, I think, and well, I'm pretty well sure they are, and well, you got 3 people running that we know for sure now with inside. I did email them and asked the election committee if I'd be allowed to run, and they told me to put in my affidavit and all that kind of stuff to let me know on the 24th. But anyway, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that. But anyway, but a couple of things there, like there's 3 people right now within the walls that's running. And I think, like before you encourage other presidents, secretary, treasurers, and things like that, and good vice president, not that Tony Doyle wasn't, I'm sure he done the best he possibly could with what he had to work with. But I think that, you need to be paying at least $250,000 for to get someone, with the expertise like Derek Butler or someone like that, like Ryan Clary, whatever, to run. And, the money is just not there this day and age for a 24/7, 365-day-a-year job. And to do a good one, have the the management, the expertise to do it. And the same thing with the inshore vice president. I was always had to believe, Paddy, that the inshore vice president was the closest thing to the fish harvesters when it comes to the union, the FFAW. I mean, now that they're expanded out, hotels, beers, breweries and all that kind of stuff, oil tankers and all that, well, they're working with all this other stuff, but the inshore vice president is supposed to be the next thing, the most important thing to the fish harvesters. And instead of, people going out and having meetings like, business agents and stuff like that, the inshore vice president should be calling where they're going to have a meeting to. They should be sitting in on that meeting. They should also be getting a salary and an office, access to a secretary, so that he or she can do the job right. That's my take on that. And but anyway, I don't hear a whole lot of people from outside the walls that's interested in running. So I guess the interest is just not there, I suppose.
No, probably not. I mean, I asked this question specifically to at least one of the candidates. Is about, we all remember back when Fish NL was trying to get off the ground, and then there was an election at the FFAW, and folks were told pretty clearly, if you're involved with formally Fish NL and some of the most notable folks out there, they weren't allowed to run. And so, I mean, we've even asked the president at the time about why not, because if you're trying to include everybody that you're representing, just because they're not happy with the way the union's operating, that doesn't mean that, in my opinion, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be allowed to run. So I haven't heard that they're disallowing anyone at this moment, and we hope that they have an open mind. Like, for instance, if you submit your application, that you're not immediately rejected because of your involvement with Fish NL back in the day. So I guess we'll all find out at the same time.
Well, not only that, I was a member of CNL also, and I've really spoken advocate, the way the reunion was run. Now, when it comes to the union, I'm a very strong union person. But, that has nothing to do with the way the union is being ran, like the FFAW. Back to the inshore vice chair, shouldn't that be a separate election altogether? Like, why would fish plant workers and why would, beer stores and oil tanker crews and all that kind of stuff, why would they vote for the inshore vice president? That should be for fish harvesters only, in my opinion. So, they got all the rules in place, but it seems like all the rules are there to suit them. And out of the 3, I'm sure they'll get somebody inside the walls, because I don't think there is any room for anybody else. But anyway, I'll see you tomorrow, up until tomorrow. But you know, like if I did run, it'd be, you know, like I got to be honest with the oil tanker and stuff like that. You know, like I do probably the best I could, but you know, like me as a fisherman's union, and I'd have the fishermen at heart. So like that's being honest and upfront. And any politician or anybody running should never be 100% honest. But that's just the way I am. You know? And you know, I can't help but be honest. That's the way I grew up and lived this long. And like, you know, I'm older for the run. But, you know, then again, there's people there older than me that's running already. So, like, I'm still kicking it around. And, you know, but you know, shouldn't the union listen to some of the stuff that I said this morning about the inshore vice president? Shouldn't he be the person that says to Don Street or somebody else, you know, like, we're going to have a meeting now instead of Don Street or something? No disrespect to Don Street. I'm just saying, you know, but the way the union is, they're telling Tony Doyle when he gets back they had a meeting somewhere, you know, and that's not right. And anyway, that's my and I'll stick into that. But I just wish it was better in hard times for fish harvesters. I just wish that we had a union that was respected more by the members and ran in a different way than it's been run for the last number of years.
So give me a specific example of how you think it's been mismanaged, because, you know, when you have a group as diverse as people working in the industry, whether it be inshore harvesters and or members who are working in the processing plant, what have you, give me one specific example where you think the union is mismanaged, because it's impossible to please everybody, because even if you're trying to do that, you're going to come up short anyway. So give me an example.
Well, I'll give you an example. You know, how can the union attack the provincial or federal government in a right way when there's so much money for science work and every other kind of work that are into it? Like, we haven't got a union now as such, Paddy. We got big business here. That's what it is. The union has turned into big business, in my opinion, and a lot of others. But how can you go up and get mad with Loveless and all that kind of stuff if he's going to turn around at the end of the day and say, Mr. Pretty, you know, we're going to cut your funding? And it's been done before when they got upset with him. And, you know, like, the union is, we're just a cash cow for the FFAW this past number of years, not like back in the Ray Janis and the earlier McCurdy days and Richard Cashy, you know, like, you know, it's all changed now. Like, it's hard to bite the hand that's feeding you. That's what I'm saying. So it's hard to put up a good fight with the federal government over shrimp or over anything else when, or seals, or whatever the case may be, if that's where a lot of your money is coming from.
Fair enough. Keep us in the loop if you decide to run, Peter, and I appreciate the call.
Okay, just one more thing, Paddy, I'd like to say. I'd like to say good morning to Anthony Barry, a good fisherman from St. Bride's. He's battling some terrible illness there now, and I'm sure there's a lot of fishermen that know him. He's one of the few iron fishermen that's left. And he really got a battle of a bad disease there. And a lot of fish harvesters around Newfoundland and Labrador know him from down the gullies and, you know, 3-0 and all that kind of stuff, you know. And really, Paddy, I'd say there's probably a few fishery officers and a few observers that probably know him too, you know. Like, but anyway, all the best to you, Anthony. I'd like to say that.
Fair enough. And I don't know the man, but I wish him well. Yes, and I'd like to say this, because this will put a spot on his face. There was a portrait of Prince Charles. At a mid news, how I don't know. But Paddy, gee whiz, what a portrait for a set of horns. You know, like, anyway, that's my beef for the day. Thanks for taking me call. No sweat. All the best. Bye-bye. All the best. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, Barry wants to talk about the roads. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Barry, you're on the air.
Hi, Barry.
Hi there.
Public safety's noticed that on Highway 410, that's Bayford Highway, they're doing construction on one of the bridges called Black Brook. There's construction signs up down the one lane, but there's no flag persons and no lights. So please, if you're driving that area, drive with caution.
Yeah, I wonder why there wouldn't be some sort of flag person in place. And, the same thing can be said, I think, around here. I saw on the Outer Ring Road, the route I take home every day, there's guardrail work being done, and there is some signage, and there is a big flashing arrow. I guess that's what you mean by lights, that is helpful. But people just play, footloose and fancy free. They zip down as far as they can to try to get ahead of a few cars to save a couple of minutes on their way home. So in addition to being aware that construction is happening, give each other a break. A little bit of zipper merge action. We all get through quicker.
Usually there's these, what do you call it, traffic lights. Right? You stop the traffic on one side, let the traffic on the other side go through.
Fair ball.
There's none of that, and there's no flag persons.
Okay, so give the folks the area one more time so that they can be aware if they're heading that way.
It's Highway 410. It's Bayvert Highway. It's approximately, the bridge is probably 10 kilometers from the highway, from TCH.
Okay. So folks in the area, they'll know exactly where you're talking about, and I appreciate the heads up.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Barry. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. Yeah, I mean, as well as I do, it happens all the time. So especially if you've been driving that Outer Ring Road, heading east here in the last week or so. So the repairs on the guardrails, good. And, of course, the signs are well back where they say, construction zone, and talk about the amount that you could be fined. And then there's a speed limit posting, and then there's the merge sign is there, and then the big flashing arrow is further down the road. And people who drive that route repeatedly, they know full well what's coming up. And so it was the left lane that we were all using to get through the construction area. And folks just go like a bat out of hell down the right-hand lane in an effort to get as far ahead as all the cars they can. And I'm talking well past the initial signs which say, you have to merge here. But no, all the way down as far as they can go to try to cut in or butt in as quick as they can to just beat a few cars and get home just 30 seconds quicker or however long quicker. Let's keep rolling. Let's go to line number 2. Shane, you're on the air. Hi, Shane, on 2.
Hi, Paddy.
Hi there.
Sorry, just had to take you off speaker there, man.
No problem.
Nice. Thanks for having me on, Paddy. I called because I wanted to talk about doctor wait times, which I'm sure is a common problem across the province. I got a pregnant wife now, and her doctor, her family doctor, retired early about 3 years ago, and she's not been able to find a family doctor since. I know almost the majority of the province is in the same boat. But she's 14 weeks pregnant now, and there's no doctors. There's nobody. They're telling her a walk-in clinic. We called the walk-in clinic. They do phone appointments only, which is not really conducive to a pregnancy checkup. There's another walk-in clinic that's just not answering the phones. I don't know if we got to show up there and hope for the best with our fingers crossed there. But I mean, Paddy, we're a province. We spend $10 billion a year. 10 billion with a friggin' B. The fact that we can't have a family doctor for every man, woman, and child on this island is pathetic, let alone the fact that half of our citizens are walking around pregnant, dying of sickness, and can't get a friggin' family doctor.
I mean, and even inside of the world, like the budget, you're right, is around $10 billion. But we spend about $4 billion on health alone. I mean, it's a remarkable number. The percentage of the $10 billion spent on health is a staggering number. I mean, there's 535 or 540,000 of us, and we spend about $4 billion on health, which leads me to believe what I say all the time is, obviously money's not the concern. There's something about the way the system works, whether it be reactionary and or the prevalence of chronic illness or whatever the case might be, but $4 billion on health and we're still struggling the way we are is mind-bending.
I mean, and we're not talking about like extra types of care, extra types of specialized medicine type thing. We're talking basic family doctor stuff, guys. This is not hard. This is the basic stuff. If you're a government and you've got $4 billion to spend on healthcare, everyone gets a family doctor. That should be easy. It's been decades of this stuff. I'm 35 years old, Paddy. Even when I was growing up as a teenager, we got bounced around family doctors.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was a kid, I never really gave it a second thought. We had a family doctor, and that was that. And, I know there's a political victory available for whichever party's in power if they can do much better on that issue regarding access to family care, or a family doctor, pardon me. Apparently they're hard to come by. I do check in around the country. We're not alone, but that's no excuse. The country has to really revamp how we deal with healthcare-related matters. So help me understand, because it's been a long time since my family had babies. I mean, my boys are in their 20s. So do you need a family doctor to get referred to an OBGYN?
Well, the OBGYNs are only taking you if you're high risk right now because they have got their plates full. So my wife does have an OBGYN that she can see at the end of October, but she's due December 5th.
Yeah,
nobody can square that circle, right? So, and Patty, I'm not going to labor it anymore. Everyone's in the same boat. But here's one more final point. The Minister of Health, nobody can get him on the phone unless you're a $10,000 donor a year. I've tried several times with emails and phones. He doesn't care. I'm out in Carbonear. Steve Crocker's got an MHA office down the road from me. You can go beat on that. You can go call that number. There's nobody around. It's a ghost town. They don't care.
Well, fair enough. Not for me to tell you what you think. But so in an effort to get a family doctor, as opposed to calling around to the walk-in clinics, even the way that I got a family doctor was I went on the list. It's called Patient Connect, and it is basically a wait list. It took me almost a year to get assigned a family doctor. Are you or your wife on that list?
She's on that list, yes. She's been on it she came across that. Some doctor had referred her to that list. My timeline's bad now, maybe a year, maybe less than a year ago. So she's been on it for about then.
Does she have the information, including the fact that she's pregnant, attached with her application?
Yes. Okay. Now, she updated it once she got pregnant. She had to go in and update some things, and she was on holds for a couple hours, and then her file is now updated, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure those things had been attended to, because not everyone even knows that you have to go on Patient Connect to be attached to one of the either collaborative care clinics or standalone family doctor clinics. So I'm glad I asked just to make sure that you were aware.
Yeah, and there is phone-in options for people that aren't pregnant and just want advice and stuff like that, and that's great, right? But in terms of pregnancy, you kind of need a physical appointment checkup,
100%, because everything might be perfectly fine, but there's a lot of nerves jangling when you're pregnant, and so fingers crossed that there's some priority given. There's lots of people that have basic needs, and some people have really serious issues, but of course with pregnancy, the timeline between a referral to an OBGYN has to line up with actual due dates, and when certain stages during your second and third trimester that might need to be attended to. So look, fingers crossed, Shane. I hope this gets resolved ASAP. And I wish you and your wife good luck, or your partner. Are you married?
We're fine, the fiance.
Oh, your fiance. Well, congratulations on that, and we wish you both good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Shane. All the best. Bye-bye. I mean, the frustration's real, right? I mean, you add to it, he mentions wait times. And, of course, that's across the gamut. Whether it be things like waiting for cardiac procedure is a good one. And there's now apparently a full complement of 5 cardiac surgeons at the Health Sciences Centre, which is where we need it to be. We do have that relationship with a hospital in Ottawa. And in fact, one of the newly hired surgeons here is one that came here from the Ottawa hospital. So then they talk about setting up, centers of excellence and what have you. So, the wait times are still very real. We thought that whether it be Heart Force One, that's flying patients in and out for their heart procedures, and or the full complement of cardiac surgeons, that the list would be attended to quite quickly, but it doesn't seem to be working quite that way. Let's go and take a break for the news. When we come back, great opportunity for you to get on the program. If you're in and around town, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break, and then we're coming back.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Elizabeth Panashaway. You're on the air. Good morning, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, are you there?
Yeah, I'm looking for my paper. I couldn't find it because yesterday I'm supposed to speak, and then I put somewhere my paper. I was writing what I want to say. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's okay. I will try to remember.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, You want me to go ahead now?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Elizabeth Panashwe from Shehaji. Yeah, I know my English not very good, but I want to try to say something about what I have the concern.
Yeah, don't worry about your English. I can understand you. Go ahead.
And I'm very concerned. Not to Ashish and Shehaji, I don't heard nothing. What's going on? What's going to happen? What's going to happen next? Only I heard a little bit. I'm very sad. Why the government? Why the government? He don't want to stop what he done our land, everything, environment. I'm thinking about the children. Like if I'm gone, you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, phone something on. Like when I'm gone, there's a lot of old people passed away, woman and a man. And only few people. What's going to happen? The land, the children, my great children, and my children, and all the children. Not Hajit. Where they're going to go? Where they're going to stay? Where they're going to be hunt animals? Everything will happen. Like a Voices Bay, Muscat Falls. And then I heard the Gar Island is going to start again. Only one postok. I don't know, or should I say postok or English postok. Like when you go canoeing, you see it's a bit danger, big postok. Sometimes you stop. And then I'm very concerned what's going to happen. And why the government he don't want to stop what he done, our land, not to Ashish and Shehaji. Everything they're going to be gone, trees, water, and what's going to happen, animals, everything. I'm very concerned, and then I'm thinking when I sat down, quiet place, I'm thinking, why? There's a lot of people, not Ashish, speak good English. Why? Nobody say nothing. And me, I don't speak English very good. Like I want to say more, everything, but I'm worried about my English. And the people, Shehajit and Natashish, she should say something. I never heard. I can't wait anymore. I was thinking, I'm gonna try to say something, because it's many years I work in environment. I'm canoe trip to the river, many years, maybe over 10 years. And I'm walking in a country to the mini mountains 1 month. I try to protect the land and environment. And why government, she don't want to stop what you done our land. So, I'm thinking about the children, everything, the land, animals.
Elizabeth, let me ask you a question. So you mentioned Voisey's Bay and Muskrat Falls, but when you talk about how the land is used in Labrador, is there something else that you're worried about that's coming or that you've heard about, or is it simply the lack of information or consultation with the government?
Yeah, I heard about low-level flying.
Right, yeah, the Germans
Maybe
are coming.
I said, did I say right? Low-level flying.
That's right.
They're going to start, I don't know when. I don't know when they're going to start. Why like that? She should think about people, the government, just like he think. Nobody here, nobody Labrador, nobody not to Ashish and Shiraji. I'm here. A lot of people here, Shiraji. The children and the people. and people stay hunting. And if everything gone, where the children they're going to be hunted? That's why I didn't want to stop. I'm walking, canoe trip. I try to protect the land environment for the children. When I'm gone, I want to make a good mesh canoe for the children. That's when I'm very concerned. And the people Shahajit and Natorashis, I don't hear nothing, and I can't wait anymore. And I was thinking, I got to say, even I don't speak very good, I want to say more, but I'm worried about English. That's one. Like this spring, a lot of people go in the country hunting all kind of animals. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah. Did you want to ask me again? Did I give you good questions you asked me?
I think that was fine. I think people know exactly what you're worried about, Elizabeth. And again, yeah. I know you're self-conscious about your English, but your point is coming across. You know, the concern for the environment is something that I think we should all share, regardless if it's Labrador or on the island. And development does come with a cost. So if you had a specific question for someone in the government or in the cabinet or the premier, what's the most important question you want to ask?
I don't understand what you're saying. Can you say that again?
Sure. If you were speaking with the Premier right now instead of me, what's the first question you would ask?
You mean if I see government talk to him?
Yes.
If I see him?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I'll be saying why. I'm very concerned the land, both Natorashish and Shahajit. Why don't you stop? Why don't you stop what you've done, our land? You should know thousand years, people hunting here, go in the country and stay not meet in the country with all the children and grandchildren. And people was very happy. Now people, I'm worried about that. I'm worried about what's going to happen. Yeah, the government, she should think about the children and the land. She wants to take away everything. That's why I'm very concerned, I'll be saying to him. Yeah.
I understand what you're talking about or where you're coming from, Elizabeth. I appreciate the call. Yeah. Would you like to say anything else before we say goodbye?
That's what I was going to say. So many times, I sat down. I want to say something on the radio, and then this morning I was thinking I'm going to try to speak because nobody speak. I wish people, Natorashish and Shahajit, say something. What's going on? I don't hear nothing. Only I heard my friends. My friends tell me what's going to happen. Yeah, that's when I'm very concerned. The land, animals, my people, and the children. Where the people they went hunting, young people, and there's a lot of children. Shahajit, same Natorashish. Yeah, and I'm very worried about. There's a lot I never see when I was young like that. I was very clean, the land, water, and animals. And I never heard the big noise in the country. I never, when I was young. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
I hope the people understand me what I'm saying.
I think they do. I appreciate the call, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye-bye. Yeah, and I mean, I understand that she's self-conscious about her English, but I think her point was understood and taken. And very quickly, when you talk about the way the land is used and whether it be, mining expansion and or hydro, And on that front, and she mentioned the Innu people, so there's ongoing discussions about 2041, which absolutely are potentially including the Gull Island, the 2,225 megawatts there. Remember, when all of this rate mitigation stuff happened, we've just been talking about that this week. $2 billion over the next 6 years to control our rates directly associated with Muskrat Falls, and then the possibility for something at Gull. Because of the rate mitigation, the Inner Nation and the contract they signed with the government on this front, they say their returns have been compromised because of the rate mitigation measures, and they say there'll be no approval, no conversation regarding Gull Island until that's addressed. So that kind of gets left on the sidelines when we talk about potential for more hydro to be developed on the Churchill River. So I just wanted to put that out there because that is absolutely has been part of the news. Let's take a break. When we get back, Terry, you're next. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Terry, you're on the air.
How are you today, Paddy?
Best kind. How about you?
Oh, getting along good, yeah.
Good man.
I want to weigh in on this doctor issue there, give me 2 cents for it, because I've been hearing a lot about it lately, and, I'm going to say something that I didn't really hear before, and a lot of them are not going to like it, but, and I'm not talking about all doctors, they're hardly in the office anymore. They're closed. You go by a lot of the offices. There's no one on the parking lot. Then you call, oh no, so-and-so is not in until 2 o'clock tomorrow, and then he's gone at 5. And back in the day, a doctor went in at 8 o'clock and he stayed there till 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock. They don't do that no more. Now, 80% of them don't, not to my knowledge, that I hear people talk about.
Well,
you know what I'm saying, Paddy?
I do, and why that would be the case. So I guess there's lots of different reasons. Some of the hours they may spend, dealing with their hospital privileges, and that's a big part of it, whether you're a family doctor or otherwise. And then the fact of the matter is, they're subcontractors, right? They don't necessarily work for the government. They're a subcontractor. They have that type of relationship, and so consequently, they are not told that they have to have a full patient roster. They basically make up their own minds about how many patients they want and how frequently they're in the office, those types of things. So they really do have a lot of control of their own clinic and their own time and all the rest of it. So consequently, whether it be hospital privileges and or just choosing not to do as much as they possibly could do throughout the course of an 8 or 10 or 12-hour day. So I guess that's what contributes to that.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what I'm getting to. That's what I mean. Yes, I know some percentage have to do with hospital. Not a lot of. Most of them are just a family practice, but you just don't seem to be able to get in. I haven't seen my family doctor now. I suppose I still haven't since my place it dissolved and they went elsewhere where I live to. And I see a nurse practitioner now.
Yep.
And I find the best kind. And those guys, if they got the break to do it, some of the other doctors might hold their socks, because I'd like to know the percentage of the patients that they have now, according to back in the day, from the number of doctors to people. I know there's more people, but there's more doctors.
There's more doctors and more nurses than ever before working in the province. Yeah, which is, it doesn't really add up, does it? If that's the case,
no.
What we don't know is they can tell us that, but let's just stick with doctors for a second. One, we don't know exactly what all the disciplines are and whether or not they have a full patient roster. And we don't know how long they've been on the job. We don't know how close so many of the doctors are to retiring. We don't really know how long people stay upon arriving in the province if they were recruited elsewhere. So there's lots that is kind of missing in the conversation, because you can tell me there's more doctors, more nurses than ever, but people are struggling.
Absolutely, they can't seem to be able to get in to visit them, because, like I said, in my opinion, I have family members that can't get through. They're all the run around. Oh, he's not in today. Oh God, he can't see. He got a patient there, and then you go by an hour later, sure, and there's no one on the parking lot. They're gone off. I don't know, golfing or back home to their family. I don't know where they are. That's their business, but they're not in the office like people or the government or whoever pays them. Like you said, however their pay goes. If they got paid like a regular person, maybe they'd be in more. I don't know. They're not gods. The blood goes through them like us. Everybody has a job to do here, and it seems like if they were in their offices more, it wouldn't be more people going to the emergency, and that wouldn't be backlog, because people that could go into the regular doctor who they can't see because they're not in the office again today have to go to the emerge.
Yeah, and I don't know how many doctors would fall into that envelope. I know that my family doctor has an absolutely full patient roster. I'll add to that is that some of the incentives that the government has put forward, especially when we talk about family doctors working in rural Newfoundland. If they want to qualify for those incentives, they have to have a full patient roster. So the government has done that much.
They're doing the job, yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm sorry to cut over you, but I do hear from people around the bay, because I listen to you every day mostly, and they do say, yes, oh God, no, they're in and that, but it seems like around more the St. John's in the metro area, it's people are just dogging out trying to get to see a doctor, and most times they're not in. It is. That's to my knowledge, that's the way I see it in here, and it has been that way for a number of years now, since this big kerfuffle been aroused with no doctors but now the nurse practitioners. And I think they should be given the break, and they should be paid by the MCP, and see how the other doctors like it then, if they get paid by seeing their patients, because I bet a lot of them will move.
Yeah, maybe. And of course, the argument that the government will make about, and it's not about being paid by MCP. I've been set straight by the people working as LPNs and or nurse practitioners. They just would like to be able to offer the service without people coming with money out of pocket. The problem there, apparently, is if that was the case, and was so much more control of your hours and the number of patients you're going to see, that maybe, just maybe, some people who are working in the public system might leave. Now, we're told by those professional organizations they don't believe that to be the case, but I think that's what government thinks, and so that's where we find ourselves on that particular front. And people do need to know that not every ill or ailment requires a doctor. Like the nurse practitioners and LPNs and registered nurses and others, they have a lot of training to deal with an awful lot of stuff. So I know people are comforted when they see the white coat and the medical degree on the wall, but sometimes what you really need, or all you really need, is whether it be an LPN or nurse practitioner, period.
That's right, and you said a big word there a minute ago, the government involvement. Like, anytime the government involved with anything, it's never easy, and it seems like it's always set back, and it's never, it don't go easy. Like, they just can't see the forest for the trees. Something so easy, they have to make it difficult. It's like there's this little computer geek in the back corner doing up a new program for something to make stuff harder for people to do and stuff. Like, I was a motor vehicle yesterday, just to change the subject. You can't go in anymore and just pick a ticket and your number. I was there, and there's these F's and W's and O's and all this stuff. Like, people came in after me, and they would go up to the wicket. Like, why can't you just go and pick a number, first come, first serve? Because it's government set up, and they do it, and we all know how they do things.
Yeah, I think some of the difference in not just taking a number is the different issues that people want. Like, it's one thing if I'm going in there to renew my license, to register my vehicle or my trailer, or to talk about transfer of ownership. I think that's why they do those types of things. I don't know if it makes it more efficient or not, but I'm pretty sure that's how they handle the traffic flow.
I don't know, I was talking to a lady next to me, and they were getting a change over from away. Next thing, she said that she was this and that, and she went over. Next thing, she was next one called up. If I'm going in, whether I'm getting my truck done or my vehicle changed over, whatever, I walked into the building before that person, and that's the way it should be done. Unless they have appointments, which they have now, and I didn't really know of any of that, but it just seemed like it was a bit of a snafu in there with that, like waiting for almost 2 hours. I was at the wicket 2 minutes, right? See people come and go. I was there, sat down, I see him coming in, getting the number, and then go over, talk to this lady. Next thing, they were up at the wicket 5 minutes later. I don't get it. But anyway, like I said, that's a whole different story from what I called you on. But this doctor thing, I know of it 100%. They're not open. I drive by these practices daily, and there's no one on the lot. Next day, between a certain hour, maybe 10 and 2, oh God, the place is full. And then there's no one there again. It's because they're not there. They pick their own hours, like you just said. That's the way that they can do it. They're not on an hour-to-hour thing, and if they were, I think it'd be a big difference.
Quite possibly. And I appreciate the time. Would you like to say anything else before I go to the news?
No, I'm good, Paddy. I'm an avid listener, and good job, man. Hats off to you.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too, Ben. Bye, Jerry. Something else that's going on out there that has some people really quite frustrated is that some doctors are picking and choosing which patients they'll take on. So, and I mean, it's up to them, I suppose, but it does come across as not quite directly in line with the oath they take. And of course, right off the top is first do no harm. So some doctors are unwilling to see patients that are either obese or morbidly obese, who are smokers or are heavy drinkers or have an addiction or whatever the case may be, because those are complex patients. Which is fair enough. I can't really tell the doctor, well, you have to see me because a patient connect told me. But that doesn't seem very helpful either. So imagine having to shop around and maybe go back on a wait list to try to find a doctor who's willing to see you because you have one of the aforementioned, medical complexities. Let's take a break. Samantha's next to talk about homelessness right after this. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Samantha, you're on the air.
Hi, my love. I wanted to call because I've been battling addiction now for a long time. I finally got clean. I was homeless for about 2 years, and I finally got into Newfoundland Labrador housing. Now, all of a sudden, about 3 months later, they're giving me an eviction notice with no cause. I don't know why.
So what kind of unit are you in?
I'm in an housing unit it's in Cornerbrook.
Yeah, no, I wonder, is it a 1-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or something?
2-bedroom. It's a 2-bedroom, and they're not transferring me. They're evicting me full on, no cause. And I don't know why. It's just, and I was homeless, and now they're just going to make me homeless again. No reason, nothing. And I'm trying to appeal it. I'm trying to go to court with it, but they're telling me now that maybe I can get a 5-day vacation or a 5-day eviction notice just for fucking around with it.
Okay, so they won't tell you anything. You ask why I'm evicted, and they just say, too bad, you're out.
Too bad you're out, basically.
I don't know why that would be the case. So you haven't caused any issues, or you haven't put the place up, or you haven't broke the place up?
Nope, the place is fine. They came for an inspection a couple months ago. They even had a housing meeting with me, asked me with the neighbours, because the neighbours were causing some trouble. And they were talking about how the neighbours got a lot of rights and, they're hard to kick them out and everything else. And then all of a sudden, I'm the one, me and my neighbours being kicked out.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, though, because I have no idea what the circumstances would be. So you say that you're about to be homeless again, so you have no options. You have nowhere to go.
No, I have no options. I have no options or anywhere to go, unfortunately. I got no family really that can actually take me in, right? Like their job, they're working, and they can't take me in, unfortunately.
Okay, and I think Dave gave you a number for an outfit called Home Connect?
Yes, my love. I was wondering if there was any other numbers that you would know of.
Well, that's the one I go to all the time as well, and Dave knows that is why he got out in front of it, which is great.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any other go-to. Certainly on the West Coast, there's not as much in the way of support organizations out in Cornerbrook, as far as I know. So
no, there's not.
Yeah, Dave just gave me another suggestion, and it's a good one. Maybe the Status of Women Council office out in Cornerbrook, they might be able to help.
Oh, yes, that's where I was going to beforehand. That's where I lived to, actually. I've lived there for over a year.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if they'll take me back again, see? That's the worst.
Yeah, so those are the two suggestions that we have. If anybody on the West Coast knows more than I do, which of course is quite likely, then...
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll get in touch with us. We have your number, so if we can come up with anything to help, we'll try to get back in touch with you, Samantha. How does that sound?
That would be greatly appreciated, my darling.
Okay, let's see what we can figure out.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
You too.
Thanks, Samantha. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, look, if there's reasons, and there are a couple of things regarding Newfoundland Labrador housing. For instance, like the wait list is varied. I think the last count there was 22 or 2,900 applicants for housing. We don't know the breakdown of whether or not that's 2,900 people, or some of those applicants are for like families of 4. So there could be thousands of people waiting for a unit, potentially, hopefully. Now, apparently they're working towards trying to repair some of the units that have been out of the rotation for quite a long time, some of them for an extended amount of time. But there's also some mismatch. So if you have a single person living in a 3-bedroom and you've got a family that needs that unit, I think we should be able to move people around to the most appropriate size of unit, because of course a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom isn't going to be good enough for a family of 4 versus the more appropriate setup of for instance, a 3-bedroom. So housing should be able to offer you a reason as to why you're being evicted, though, all the same, in fairness. Let's roll. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I'm calling in about the doctor situation.
Okay.
And I think there's a limit, or something that could ratify it if only the government would let the nurse practitioners go under MCP. Now, I'm lucky. I got a nurse practitioner, and I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income, and I love my nurse practitioner, but every time I go, I got to pay. And with the cost of living today, everybody knows and I'm a widow, and I got to keep up a house, do all this stuff. But I'm still lucky that I got a nurse practitioner.
Yes, and many people are quite satisfied. You know, there might indeed be issues where you do need to see a medical doctor, but between nurse practitioners and LPNs, they have an awful lot of training and can do a lot more than they're actually currently allowed to do. We've talked about expanding the scope of practice. Like, there's no good reason in this world, in my opinion, why if I'm trained and accredited to do X, I should be allowed to do that.
Yes.
100%.
And since I've been going to my nurse practitioner, I've had CAT scans, ultrasound, whatever, same as I went to my family doctor. I get the reports back the same. So, and I phoned about it to the government and said, why don't you, let them go on their MCP? And they said, oh, it's private. But if you go to a doctor, they're private too. So what's the difference?
Yeah, good point. And I mean, even the LPNs or the nurse practitioners, they don't even necessarily want to be inside the world of MCP, but they want to be able to get paid for their services and not charge you.
I just said MCP.
Yeah, me too. I say it all the time.
But to say, whatever it is, if they should be able to send their bill in the same as if I went to, I had a family doctor for years. I'm a senior citizen now, and it's the first time I've ever been without a doctor for the last, say, 2 years, because I've always had a family doctor. But he retires and leaves and goes away, and all the other situations comes up. Mm-hmm. So I think the government is just, they could do better.
I think that's a fair comment. They could do better.
I think they should if they had ordinary people in there, working people, that had to work for a living, they'd have a different idea. It would be run a whole lot different.
No argument for me.
So that's my 2 cents for today.
And I'm glad you shared it. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And and I was thinking while we were talking about the caller earlier said, I think his name is Terry, is that there's many doctors out there that possibly don't have a full complement of a full patient roster. And I was talking about the fact that maybe some of these hours are spent, accommodating their hospital privileges, and add to it, even through the list of, okay, we've got more doctors than ever before. How many of them are actually even seeing patients? Some of these doctors might be just solely teaching at the med school. Some of them might be doing research, and that's it, and not actually seeing patients. So there's a lot to fill in there as to what doctors are doing what, as opposed to just saying the doctor is here. But the doctor's not seeing the patient, then that's not part of the... Now, of course, not to diminish any research they're doing or teaching they're doing or hospital privileges that they're exercising, but there's, just the headline numbers doesn't necessarily paint the complete and full picture. All right, let's check in on the Twitter box before we get to the break. We're VOCM Open Line, you know what to do. Follow us there. There was one suggestion when Shane called about the inability to get a family doctor for his 14-week pregnant wife, or fiancée, pardon me, Shane. And we did get a couple of suggestions rolled in, which we did pass along to Shane. That's hopefully helpful. And Aaron said, well, maybe try a midwife or a doula. Fair enough. There was a lot of fanfare surrounding the reintroduction of midwives not that long ago, and it kind of stalled. So as far as I know, there's very few midwives practicing, and I believe they're all in Central. And of course, a doula can indeed play a role, but it's not for me to tell Shane and his wife who want to see a doctor, but it is a fair suggestion. It's not a tell you what to do, it's just something out there that maybe has not been considered. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, Mark's in the queue to talk about housing, and then plenty of time for you to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Just before we get to the callers, so interesting turn of events in the FFAW election. So veteran of some 4 decades in the fishing industry, Bill Broderick, he had put his hat in the ring to run for the presidency. He's withdrawn. He's actually put his support behind Abe Solberg, who we actually had on the program as well. So Bill Broderick, the real veteran, has withdrawn his nomination for presidency. Interesting. Let's go to line number 1. Mark, you're on the air.
Hey, Patty, how's it going?
Doing great. How about you?
Good. I just wanted to call in today to talk about housing. I haven't called in for a couple weeks probably now, so I wanted to sort of give an opportunity for things to settle down after the Tent City eviction. And, And I just wanted to call in today specifically about the need for supportive housing and supportive living programs here, at least in the capital city here, but I assume across the whole province. I learned yesterday that there are only 11 people. I was watching the House of Assembly there. There's only 11 people there at the Comfort Inn. There's no wraparound supports. There's apparently no health care as well. There's no mental health and addiction supports as was the plan. So I understand that there's going to be a rollout, but really that kind of thing should be in place, specifically where the government already has and is providing aspects of that programming. And I wanted to sort of go back in time because back in, we've been talking about this stuff for a long time. Back in October of 2022, I wrote to the Minister of Health regarding the mental health and addictions funding. And yesterday on the our local CBC put out an article about Susan Evoy, good friend of mine, lives around the corner. We got a little snapshot into what she's been dealing with for about 3 years with her next door and the mental health and addictions funding that has kept her basically from living in her own house. So I wrote to the minister about this because, of course, we had a crack house pop up in the neighborhood here years ago, and this was one of the issues. This funding was keeping somebody, in place, and of course, when government's paying like $3,000 a month for one person to live in a place, it's very, very hard to get this person out. The landlord doesn't want to get rid of this person because that's a cash cow, and of course, no one wants this person to be without a home. But what happened in that situation was, as you and any listeners that have heard me talk about it before, there was a housing takeover, and it became a place that everybody in the neighborhood came by and bought crack. Eventually, the RNC shut it down for about a week. But the issue that I wrote about then was the lack of wraparound supports for the residents. And in fact, since then, nothing's changed, and it's actually gotten worse. There's more of this funding going out, and there's still no wraparound supports in many cases. We saw in that CBC article that Steve Saunders, the landlord who was discussed, talked about providing supports. That's not the case. He talked about repairs done within a reasonable time frame. I know that was not the case in this situation. At Susan's house, there was, the window was boarded up for, I don't know how long, a couple months probably, at various different times. And we know that, so NL Health Services approves these funds, but sometimes it's only based on a one-time meeting there with case management. So we need follow-up. Many of these folks need wraparound supports all the time, whether it's from the justice angle or whether it's from the health angle. And over this past, year and a half, almost 2 years, I've also been asking government to expand the FACT, ACT, and NAVNet teams, which are referred to in that CBC article as well. Here we are now. We've Tent City was evicted. The public still thinks that the Comfort Inn was the big solution for folks in Tent City. But meanwhile, it was only ever 3 people that were offered to go there from Tent City. There's no supports there. The quality of life for folks in the housing continuum is not being followed up by supports. And we're also seeing folks that are getting evicted. So we're not seeing folks being being safeguarded in a home and provided what they need in order to stay in that home. So we're just repeating the same processes over and over again. So, Patty, I guess we need more. How do we do this? How do we move forward? And I guess, today, I'm here to sort of ask you and ask folks, how do we do this? How are we going to provide the supports that are needed? Do we need like a home care type program to follow folks from these justice and health related funding programs to ensure people stay in their homes, that they have what they need, that they don't become, a menace to the community? What do we do?
Well, we don't do what we're currently doing. First things first. If we talk about the three streams of subsidies that go to these landlords for housing people with quote-unquote complex needs, the fact of the matter is it's too costly. It does not have the support. People are left to their own devices. There's one inspection only, so maybe just something as formal or as simple as the Newfoundland Labrador Housing Corporation that goes out to do a first inspection, in addition to whatever supports are required, like frequent visits by social workers who have the specific training, and inspections like every 30 days. Let's just have a real grip on what we see is happening in some of these homes. We can't leave it up to Susan Evoy to tell the story. We have to leave it up to officials with the appropriate training and authority to deal with issues, much like what we don't do in emergency shelters. It's just now that we're currently doing a review to talk about oversight, monitoring, and enforcement, as opposed to knowing that was required from the very first time we ever opened up an emergency shelter door. So, a few things. Specified training, frequent visits, frequent inspections, and if people are unable to live in a reasonable fashion, and I know we have to understand some of the issues regarding addictions to mental health, but if you're putting the neighbourhood on wheels, as opposed to the RNC just coming and telling people to be good, we should be able to deal with them. Meaning, if there's going to be a particular unit set aside for those who are completely unruly, unable to help themselves, making themselves dangerous to the neighbours surrounding, then we just deal with them. We got to stop pussyfooting around some of this stuff too, right? Some people are going to be pretty unmanageable. And I'm not trying to be disparaging, it's just a fact of the matter. So those few things, if we start there, maybe it gets better. Not immediately and not perfect, but better.
Yeah, back then in 2022, I'd also written to the Justice Minister to say, is there a way to trigger an inspection or trigger a follow-up? If the RNC get called so many times, can somebody go into that house and make sure it's okay? Really, when you say there's an inspection at the onset of this funding, that's only for the federal program.
That's it.
That's not everything. That's, like Annual Housing will go in and say, yes, this house can be used with the federal top-up, the federal subsidy. It's not
right.
None of the other funding mechanisms have requirements for an inspection,
or triggers,
and none of them have requirements for follow-up. Any social workers that go there just knock on the door.
Well, and that's what I was getting at. Mark, I just have to cut it off here, unfortunately, because we're right up against 12 noon, but we can pick it up again.
Well, thanks, Patty. And I lastly, just wanted to say, it was disappointing to see the minister go back to this rate mitigation answer when we're dealing with real questions like supports and housing and what's going on and what's being provided for folks that need help.
Appreciate the time. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. And there we go. Mark had the last word, and we will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21+. Terms and conditions apply.